Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and you would know that it's one we get asked by LPs almost all the time. There aren't that many captive funds anymore, so-called captive. I guess there's really two questions there. One is, what does CLSA do? And two, what about the whole captive issue? On the captive issue, first of all, I would say that we're a very unique, again, in this sense, a very unique manager, I think. We are 100% owned today by another entity, CLSA, that is not an investment bank, but largely a brokerage and research house with some investment banking activities like some equity capital markets activities. So one, a lot of the drivers, at least some of the drivers, that pushed a lot sooner large investment banks to divest of their private equity businesses don't necessarily pertain to us. We don't have a lot of conflicts with CLSA. People perceive CLSA, and indeed we think it is, a very independent brokerage and research provider. We benefit from that reputation and that brand, and we really don't find ourselves running across a CLSA as a conflict. So there are very many of our LPs that actually see it, most likely, I know they see it as a strength as opposed to a weakness. We also don't see CLSA has never historically in our 16 years done what all the large European and US investment banks have done, understandably, which was use PE as a source of significant revenue in the investment banking business. In fact, that's why PE, that's where it had its genesis in US and European banks. Very different in Capital Partners. It was really sort of a homegrown entity that grew out of the independence model that existed in CLSA. If I had to pick a few, China has, for those that have been thoughtful and careful, has returned very good returns. It's done the same for us. We've been fortunate to see north of 50% IRRs in our China investments. We have seen actually some very good returns in India, notwithstanding the fact that both China and India now are very much perceived as overvalued jurisdictions, and in large part we would agree with that premise. And one that people would be surprised by, but it's really one of our focuses, and we think one of the areas that is probably one of the better opportunities for PE in Asia right now and over the next probably 3 to 5 year period is Japan. Not necessarily the top of many people's lists when you think about private equity. And Japan, our Japan buyout fund, has been our single best performer. Not that that's the best place that we have invested, but it just happens that it's had exceptional IRRs, well north of 50% in terms of gross IRRs. That's probably one that would surprise a lot of people. I had to pick a couple areas that we're not in today that over the medium term, I'd say after the next 2 to 3 year period, I'd say a couple areas that are of interest and we might pursue. One would be infrastructure. One might be variation upon our Fudo real estate fund, which maybe would be a core fund. Currently we're an opportunistic fund. And then maybe some more focus on regional or country funds. So right now we have really one country fund in Japan. Southeast Asia is something on our list, as well as possibly a China fund.